everyone. Welcome to a new edition of JKL Media Reviews, where we are talking about The Expanse. And today we're going to be talking about Critical Mass, the penultimate episode of season one. I am joined by my lovely and talented co-host, Jesse. Hi, Jesse.
Hello.
And Lou. Hi, Lou.
Hello, everyone.
Quick thoughts about the episode. And let's get this done quick so I can go and watch the other half. But no, just kidding. Quick thoughts. Let's start with you, Lou.
I think the title is quite appropriate. Critical Mass indeed.
Yep. Okay, Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, I really love this. They do some fun things with time,
Yep,
and they expect you to hang with them. They do not spoon feed you. They don't go previously on or here was the date. We're going to tell the story and we trust you to pick it up
Yeah,
and love that.
me
Even though
too.
sometimes I'm a little short and wait,
Mm,
oh, now I got it.
sure. And I think that's part of what they're trying to do is throw you off a little bit. But they also understand that their audience is smart. So they know that you'll stick with them and you'll understand what they're trying to do. And I think the three of us did. I really liked this episode a lot. I think Critical Mass is a very apt title, not just because of the inferred meaning of it, but also the ending was like almost dead on Critical Mass, right? So I want to start with all the flashbacks at the beginning, mainly Julie, which was the main part of it. I loved seeing the stuff that we didn't get filled in on. It filled in all those little unknowns from the first episode, and we're seeing it. It's stuff that we knew, right? And we're seeing it from a different perspective, a slightly different perspective than we saw in the pilot episode, where we saw a very abbreviated version of it, and we didn't get to see the remaining part. They just showed us a little bit in the middle of that whole flashback. So let's talk about that. What did you think about her reaction to what she saw, the things that happened on the scopuli? No, was it the scopuli?
that's the
Yeah,
ship she was on.
she was
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
and then they were taken prisoner and put on the
to
Anubis.
the Anubis. So, what did you think about all that? How did you feel about learning more about Julie, seeing her actually interact with people and all that? And then I'll talk about what happened when she got to Eros in a follow-up. So
Okay.
let's take it right up to Eros. Let's go with you, Lou.
Yeah, I'd like to structure this episode because up until this point, Julie has been more of an idea instead of a solid concept. And to maximize the impact of her discovery by Miller, I think that this really helps drive home exactly who and what she was. And the whole, she's a rebel, she's an earther, but she's standing up for belters, which is something that Miller can really appreciate because it's something that he hasn't quite been able to do himself. So he respects her for that quite a bit. And I think the intimation there is that those feelings were stronger than just respect. So I really like how they did all of that. It's also nice just from a story perspective to get the missing pieces of what exactly happened on those two ships. And before it's like reading if we go back to Titanic and the James Cameron movie, and when they're showing like the computer simulation of how the Titanic hits the iceberg and sinks and all that, and then the lady, I can't remember her name, she says that's a very interesting technical demonstration. She says, but the reality of the experience was something quite different. And then obviously the rest of the movie deals with all the emotional impacts of that. And this is like a mini version of that in a way. So what they've done here, so I think that's really well done. There's some very important information relayed here as well, in that the bioweapon on the ship is the property of Julie's father. that's a very big reveal. I don't know if you guys caught that or not, but
Yep.
so that's very interesting. And then the other thing that's standing out to me is Julie's trying to get a hold of Anderson Dawes, but he's not answering her. So that's also an interesting point. So yeah, just a really well done section, and it just brings the emotional connection that was probably missing from through the first 8 episodes about who and what Julie was.
Yeah, it brings her back into the story.
Yeah.
How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I was, because they have taught us how to watch the show, I went, oh, okay, this is a flashback. It was interesting. We started with Miller, and you're like, oh, he's wearing the hat, so we know it's a flashback. And then we see her, and some of the things I really liked was how it confirmed what we suspected. The idea is I've sent out the distress signal. The quicker this happens, the quicker we can get them fighting each other, the better. Okay, that's what everyone had theorized this was for. We
Mhm.
get confirmation that was their intent. The idea of Julie being put in the cell, and then the captain of the ship that came, is it hot in here? You're like, oh
Mm,
crap,
Mhm.
And at this time, we do not know it's not airborne. Like
right.
they
Right.
confirm that later in the episode.
Yep.
But at this time, you don't know. And you're like, oh my God, are they going to catch this? I also think, in a minor way, post see things a little bit different when you watch about this kind of virus or whatever it is, because in our mind, we know this can happen. This can, and I realize I will try not to get too political, but there's a lot of people now saying that we were lied to about COVID and all blah, 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 blah politically. But at the time, we didn't know what to do.
Yep.
And we were trying to do anything we can to try to throw it to the wall to try to save people's lives. So I do get the ships confused at times. I feel like I should have a cheat sheet. Oh, okay, this is this ship. This is this ship. But I loved how we're setting this up, and how and we'll get to some other things later that surprised me, but I this was a really strong beginning. And this could have been just an episode. There was so much data in there, so much information given. I know sometimes it's easy to complain about flashbacks. Hey, if the story is important enough, just start at the beginning and tell it straight through. Brett over at Tuning into Sci-Fi TV is a big fan of that. I think in this case it worked better because we this is confirming what we've suspected, we've thought, and done that in a really strong way.
And it also gives us that feeling that, hey, I got some of that. That
Yeah,
was part of what I thought was going on.
hmm,
And that always makes me feel good about a show.
yeah,
I also want to mention that this tied into the other storyline, which was the destruction of the Canterbury. We saw that as
mhm,
well, that Julie was in the prison cell when the Canterbury was blown up. So we get that timeline lining up. And one of the things I mentioned to my husband was that her ties were interesting, that she had a tie with Fred Johnson because
yeah,
Fred Johnson is the one who hires people to go after her. And now we know she had a tie to Anderson Dawes on
yeah,
series, sorry. And so to me, I was like, wow, are they tying a lot of stuff together? And I appreciate that very much. And like you said, Jesse, they didn't spoon feed us. They just came right out and said, here's what happened. Let's tie it back to the timeline so you get a little more information. and let's answer some questions for you before we throw you into the deep end on the last episode. I have a feeling that we're going to get a lot of stuff in season 1, episode 10 next week.
Yeah.
And also, this was 2 years before COVID. I think it's really interesting to watch shows that deal with some sort of outbreak, a pandemic that happened before COVID, because there are examples, but the Spanish flu being, I think, the closest one to the COVID pandemic. But I always find it interesting to watch stories like that and see how true they were to what an actual outbreak would be, because we learned that firsthand.
Yeah, it's also highlighted this year with how the incidence of flu, it's a lot higher this year than normal. And I think that's because a lot of people are just not getting vaccinated anymore.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there is
agree.
that fear.
The fallout from the pandemic, which didn't happen after the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu caused people to be more vigilant, and there wasn't that divisive bridge between factions of, hey, that's a fallacy. I don't need to wash my hands. I don't need to wear a mask. And the people who, I hate to say this, but the people who understood what was really going on, that you needed to be vigilant and all that. So, okay, so let's talk about what happens when Julie gets on the Anubis gets on the Anubis's
shuttle.
escape pod shuttle, thank you, and goes to Eros. What the events that unfolded happened, why that happened, and how it happened. Her being infected with, and I'm assuming it's because she cut her hand on the bulkhead that was ripped up. And I think that the crew of the Anubis, they had it in their head, because of what happens later, they had it in their head that this was going to be something that enhanced them. And so they exposed themselves to it on purpose. Not sure, because what's his name tells them, hey, don't touch that unless you want something amazing to happen. And I like to think that's what happened to the crew, because that backfired spectacularly. So let's talk about that. And I also want to ask you guys what the deal was with Julie seeing Joe Miller hallucinating him or whatever. What does that mean? What was going on there? Let's start with you, Jesse. What did you take from that part of the storyline?
I'm still very confused, and I think I may have you guys explain where you think we are on what people think this entity can do. Is it a weapon? Is it I think back to the Wild Cards series of paperbacks, books that George R. Martin and I can't think the other co-creator, where this virus hits the US and hits the world, and some become aces and some become jokers, and it's a beautiful series. But I'm not quite sure what this is going to be yet, and I'm interested. Julie doesn't look well as she's traveling through and finding a space. And I don't know, was it just to show us that they were in the same orbit and how we do have connections that we don't know about each other? It's like we were talking before we hit record. My sister just got married, and the guy she married was a sophomore when I was a senior at the same high school. We didn't know each other, we didn't connect, but as he talked about, there were people that we both know that we have in common. So I'm not sure if it was more than that. I'm curious to hear. And also, I'm coming in this from I've not seen anything similar to you. And I'm curious, Lou, what can you share without spoiling things from us?
Yeah,
In terms of
why
Just
she
this,
saw Joe.
why she saw
okay.
Joe, and should I know more because a couple of times you guys have said, "Oh, I did not catch this," and you went, "Oh, this is something you should know."
Okay.
I just want to mention before we go to you, Lou, that it's interesting that you mention about what connections you have. On my blog, there's a blog post about how my husband and I met, and we had 3 separate instances where we could have met before our actual meeting in Virginia. And I found it incredibly poignant that we met at the right time for us.
Yeah.
And we didn't meet those 3 times when our paths crossed. I'm really interested in what the deal is with why she saw Joe there. Okay, now go, Lou. Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, but one point I want to clarify with how she caught the virus, as the one guy that was taking samples from her said, it's not airborne, but you don't want to touch it when it's wet. And
Mm,
unfortunately for Julie, when she exited the cabin or storage area that which she was put in, her hand came down on some stuff and it was wet. So she hadn't cut
okay.
her hand or anything. It's just happenstance. Really unfortunate considering everything that she had gone through, that she just accidentally put her hand on some wet proto matter. So that's why she became infected. And that's a pretty cruel
Mm,
fate. And which is why, in a way, her father, even though he doesn't know that, he says we've been very lucky that the proto matter is still active and that they can get a sample of it. Now, as to why she saw Miller, that is the simplest explanation, is that their timelines converged just as she was dying. He came into the room. So that's the most pragmatic.
so why do you have his hat on?
That's a good question. And also, why was he holding the rosary or whatever that thing
Yeah, her
was? Yeah.
beads. Yeah.
Yeah. So he could possibly have some sort of heightened senses from the protomatter. I'm just spitballing here, but the basic answer is that she did just as Miller's entered in the room, she's passing away.
Okay.
So whether that works for you or not, you just have to go with it. So
That was one of my theories. Yeah.
right, yeah, and
Is this time, like when he and the crew are in there, she dies almost immediately. She had not been dead a while.
right.
Yeah, she's
Okay,
dying
I
just as
thought
they
she
come
had
in.
been dead a while.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's
But
hard to tell
that
with
makes
from the
sense.
condition her body's in, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but she was just spitting up that proto matter, and then you could see like the crystals had formed in her mouth. How quickly that happens is again. So
Okay.
that scene is still left open for interpretation, but I think from a dramatic point of view or a sympathy point of view or emotional point of view, the fact that she dies just as Miller comes into the room is probably the most heartbreaking or
Sure.
Hmm.
Sure.
poignant interpretations. That's how I would go with that.
Do you think, knowing what it is, do you think maybe it's a little clairvoyant? Because then she could
My
maybe
memory's a little
see.
fuzzy on that, to be honest. And the thing about the protomatter that I'll say is it's like the Maltese Falcon of the story. So
Okay,
it's not, you're not going to get the answers
sure.
all at once.
Okay.
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, cool. All right. Now you want to say more about that storyline since we only got the Joe Miller part of it.
Her getting to Eros is, again, how you, depending how you look at it, is good or bad. I think this episode, beyond her personal demise, I think this episode is showing that it was bad that she got there. And she's pretty resourceful. Like she beats up that civilian to get his ID so that she can book a hotel room. And then she realizes that whatever's happening to her, it's attracted to light. So she's breaking all the lights in that. And then she's trying to get a hold of Dawes. And for whatever reason, Dawes is not getting back to her. So that probably a story there that we'll have to find out about. And then, yeah, she's dying from something that her father created, which
Mhm.
is pretty cruel.
Yeah,
And her father shown crying or shedding a
yeah.
tear or two.
But
Yeah,
then
yeah,
reinforcing the fact that this stuff is his
yeah,
thing that he wants to continue using.
yeah.
And if you don't mind, also, I want to make sure we get to this. the similarity between her dad and Christian is made pretty clear in this as well, at least
Yeah.
from my perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
That they both have a mission and they'll do whatever they have to
Yeah.
get it done. Yeah. Sacrifice people they love.
Yes.
That makes sense. Very much. Yeah.
But
Go
to be
ahead.
fair to the father, though, what happened to Julie was not directly his fault. I mean,
No.
he created the protomatter. It's just happenstance that she ended up
Right,
being
right.
infected by it.
Yeah, he didn't
So,
mean for her to be
no.
affected by it.
Whereas with
Right.
Christian, she deliberately manipulated that guy to get the
Correct.
data she needed.
But
Right.
she did not mean for him to die.
No, she didn't.
Right.
And just, I mean, he,
But she's more directly responsible for
Mm,
him, is my
right.
point, because she
Right.
tricked him.
I will
Yeah, it's
disagree
true.
with that.
Okay.
I think he is directly responsible because if he had not started this, his daughter would have been alive.
Sure. But yeah, okay. We're
No, I
splitting
mean,
we're splitting hairs. We're
we are
splitting hairs.
definitely splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Neither one are very good people
No.
No.
at
Yes.
this point. Now, maybe something will go to change it. Just because she's not a good person doesn't mean she's not a great character.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
Although Julie's dad, yeah, I'm not hopeful that he will be a good character. So I also want to mention that while we get that sync up where we know where Julie is in comparison to the destruction of the Cant, we also see that Anderson has started his campaign about the Cant being blown up and Holden being on Cirrus. We see that line up as well when she goes to try and contact Anderson. That we see part of his speech that he was making to the rebels, for lack of a better word, which I think is cool. Okay. So on to I'm going to go to the minor storyline here before we get into the Rossi and their adventures on Eros. And that is Christian finding out that Franklin has killed himself and going to see his husband and the kind of thing she did there. Personally, I was very angry. I said to my husband, if she steals something from his office, I'm not going to forgive her for that. And she does. It's pencils, I guess.
But are they pencils?
No, they're data devices, obviously, but
That's pretty
it's not
cool, right?
like, yeah, it was pretty cool. It's not like she stole something sentimental. That's what I mean, because his husband wouldn't care about those pencils. I doubt it. But so she's trying to find out more about this stuff that she's gotten embroiled in. I think she has gotten herself caught up in this whole thing about the conspiracy, and now we'll have to see where that goes. Has she dug a hole that's going to be hard to get out of? Let's talk about that. And I am completely on board with what's his name, George, his husband.
Yeah.
I'm completely on board with him saying I'm not Franklin. That Franklin found it hard to, but he forgave her, and George obviously does not. And I love the fact that he gave her, what for, and didn't absolve her of her responsibility. So let's talk about Christian, George, Franklin, the news, and also the pencils and the data that she might have gotten.
Might want to include Fred Johnson as well. His
Sure, we'll
message,
talk about Fred Johnson and his message that
because it ties into the pencils.
right, that he got the information that Lopez had on him out to the public. And it does tie in with the information that Christian gets off of those data devices. I'll start with you, Lou.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to hear what Jesse says, because I know he's had trouble with Christian, and this
Would you rather
episode.
he go first?
No. I'm pretty sure I know what his reaction is going to be, but I just wanted to be verified. And she goes there under the pretext of a personal connection, but actually she has an ulterior motive. And at first you think it's a personal motivation, because when she takes those pencils, you think, oh, maybe they used to write notes down or something like that when they worked together or whatever. So that's
Sure.
nice. It must be a very personal thing, because like you said, it wouldn't have a probably a connection for her husband or for his husband. But then when she gets on the plane or the whatever it is, the jet, and then she's taking those pencils and putting them on the pad and saying there's no data in them, you're going, oh my God, she really did go there for an ulterior motive. So that was interesting. And then she finds the information about the 10 stealth ships. Was it 10? Or it doesn't really matter. But the stealth ships and their serial numbers, and they can't be tracked anywhere, which is interesting. And then, of course, Fred Johnson pulls a Holden and broadcasts a message to everybody to prove his innocence, and talks about the data cube from the Martian soldier, and that the data cube proves that those stealth ships were not from Mars, but they were actually from Earth. It's very subtle stuff, maybe, if you're only casually watching. This is a show where you have to pay attention, because even these seemingly throwaway scenes are relaying information that is important later on. So
Sure.
just Christian is just Christianing, and
Yeah.
Fred Johnson is Johnson or Holdening.
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 Yeah. I want to also drop in here. I want to correct myself. His name was Craig. So not
Okay.
George. So
Right.
just I want to make sure
And
I
how
get that
how
right.
nice does Alaska look in the future?
Gorgeous. But I've heard it's gorgeous now too.
Oh,
I
okay.
was lamenting earlier, one of my mother's bucket list items was to go to Alaska, and she never made it there. I would love to go there in her place, but I don't think I'm going to make it either. How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, when we
Not
see
about
Christian,
Alaska,
no, okay.
about the Expanse.
Yes. When we see Christian, I know she's there to look for something. I immediately suspected that this is not a call to for condolences, because she's already shown that she didn't care. The last week we saw them like, okay, yeah, I'm fine. Let's go with the meeting. So I do not, I'm judging her, but I don't think she has any concerns at all that he did this himself. She even justifies it by saying he still had you, right?
Yeah.
And then she plays the, oh, I need to say goodbye.
Mm,
And I
so
just saw,
frustrating.
yeah. And at first she's just walking around, but then you see when she sits down, she's looking, going, oh, is anyone paying attention? Okay, what do I do? And when she saw the pencils, I knew they were more than just pencils. I wasn't sure what, but yeah,
Interesting.
I so love being unhappy with her, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I love watching the character, and she is just truly and it's hard to call her a villain because she is doing everything she can. We've talked about this before, to help Earth. This should be in our mind. We're from Earth, she's from Earth, she should help. But because of seeing her choices, just makes me like, ugh.
Mm,
Yeah, she is one of my favorite characters,
Oh, really?
as someone
Oh,
I dislike.
oh,
I
okay.
love watching her. I love her mannerism. I love how she's dressed.
Very
me too.
classy.
The
Yeah.
very elaborate stitching,
Yeah.
and always all formalized to me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
always in a formal kind of setting. So
Mm.
an amazingly wonderful character to
Almost like
watch.
it's a shield, you would think.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
I would like to think that they're communicating that she's come from old money, maybe, that she definitely, this isn't an air she's putting on. That's how she is. Because otherwise it would be super flashy, and I don't think it is super flashy. I think it's one of those,
Yeah.
like a Katharine Hepburn. She always was super classy, but she didn't say, "Hey, I've made a lot of money from movies." She
Yeah.
always just looked really put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic with her because, especially since she's a woman, I think it would be easy, and probably some people would say that she's a bitch. But
Mm.
if she was a man doing the same things, they would just say he's driven.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's what she is. Like, and people that are successful in life tend to be not very well liked by a lot
Yeah,
of other people. Like I'm thinking of Steve Jobs,
sure.
very successful, but also not liked by a lot of people. But those people are an interesting case study for us regular people who value relationships than personal success, I think. So it's an interesting dynamic because we all want to be successful, but it's at what cost are you willing to pay to become successful? And
Yep.
we've seen with Christian, it's already cost her son. And that episode, Windmill episode, where she went to visit Holden's mother, I keep holding on to that
Yeah.
because of what I know
Makes her
of the
human.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day, episode-to-episode basis, she's very driven and is willing to sacrifice personally to be successful.
Yeah, and I do think that she cares that Franklin killed himself. I think she is slightly sad about it, and I
But it
think
doesn't supersede her
nope, nope,
drive.
her goals are much more important to her. And like you said, that is a hallmark of people that are extraordinarily driven. And as Jesse said, she's the hero of her own story. I keep saying that, but I do think that applies to her. Her crusade is just in her mind.
She's very much the means justify the end.
Correct. Yeah. And I think she's sad. I think part of her was there to offer condolences in a way because she
Hmm.
does say he had you. And I think that says something about how she perceived their relationship. But I also think that, yeah, her ultimate goal in going there was to see if she could find any information about what she had asked Franklin to do. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I think that's a roundabout way to say it, but yeah. It was heartbreaking to me to see that scene between her and Craig, and but I'm in Craig's corner there, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I think that may have hammered home, or at least hammered closer to home, what she had done. She right now she's put on that shield to say, I can't feel anything about this because what I'm doing is right. She's starting to get a little cracked there on maybe I had more to do with this than I thought. At least that's my view on it.
Yep.
Okay. So now let's talk about what's going on Eros. And I'm guessing this will be the story that we wrap up on. I want to talk about what happens with Holden and Joe, but I want to save that for after our main discussion about it.
Sure.
So we pick up right where we left off with them finding Julie. And we see that Semi and Dresden do come in, not together. Semi comes in first and says, you better get out of here. I'll hold them off as long as possible, but go. And Holden is all set. He's ready to go and get out of there because he doesn't want anything to do with this. Where Joe wants to hang back a little bit. He's very reluctant to leave because he does have that, he feels a connection with Julie. And again, it's heartbreaking to see him realize that his goal of finding Julie and maybe pursuing a friendship or more, I also think it was more. He wanted a romantic relationship with her. That hope has been dashed completely. So ultimately, I feel like he doesn't have a lot to lose, and Holden thinks he has a lot to lose. And that almost informs the differences between the two men. And the fact that they have to team up alone later in the episode is so amazing to see because they're two men that have a similar goal, but the way they feel about that goal is vastly different. I also want to talk about Dresden. Let's do this in parts. Let's talk about Holden and Joe and the crew of the Rossi first. And just a quick kind of, because there's not a lot to that, but I do want to get your feelings on that before we jump into the rest of that story. Let's go with you, Lou.
I think it's again this section shows us really well the personalities of the characters. Amos is let Miller do his shit. He can
Yep.
look after himself. We got our stuff to do. Let's get out of here. Kaz is trying to figure out how to get back to the ship. Naomi, sorry, is conflicted, but she's obviously picking up on the fact that Miller had feelings for the girl. And from her perspective, they could have even been a thing. Like she doesn't know. So that was interesting so she's a very emotionally perceptive. And then you get Miller and Holden. They both are on a path of finding the truth, but their motivations are different. Holden is the idealist. He wants justice. Miller at this particular moment, he's out for revenge. And that was partly due to how Holden snapped Miller out of his funk by saying, if you want to find out what's happened to her, who did this to her, we have to get going. So that's how he got them going. So I thought it was a really great showing section of the show for all the different characters. And once again, Holden's insistence on doing the right thing gets him in big trouble by
Yep.
the end of the episode.
And other people
And
in
other
trouble.
people.
Yeah.
But the moment is interesting because when he makes that declaration to Naomi, he says, and I'm making her our problem now too. I think she realizes at that moment that this guy he's just not your average guy. So I think that's a big moment that he made that declaration to her and something to bear in mind going down the road. The one thing that kind of bugged me is when the Holden and Miller were fighting, the fight was close. Now you could say technically maybe Miller's a more experienced fighter, but Holden's an earther, Miller's a belter. So strength wise, there should really be no contest between the two of them. So
Mm-hmm.
I was going, okay, obviously they don't want to make Miller look like a wimp. So they kind
Sure.
of they made that fight probably closer than it should have been. And then the ruthlessness of Miller as they're trying to track down the people responsible for what happened to Julie is demonstrated several times throughout this section of the episode as well.
Yeah, I get the feeling that Holden's a crusader, right?
Yeah,
And Miller, at that point, when he finds Julie and realizes that she's dead, he sees the red flag.
yeah,
And in his brain, it just switches to, yeah.
yeah,
And he becomes this machine. And Holden, I think, snaps him out of that enough that he can strategize about how to do this, which is
right,
picking up the guard and all that stuff.
yeah,
Okay, what about you, Jesse?
I like how you mentioned, Lou, that it shows our characters' mindsets and Holden, no, it's not our business, but I'm making it my business. This, because you often wonder, at least I do, why are you getting involved? Like, why don't you? A common is Doctor Who, right? Like, why doesn't the companion, the doctor, just get back in the TARDIS and leave? Because you
Right.
would not have a TV show. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to see him and these two guys who don't know each other, but getting involved. We're glad they're getting involved because, in a lot of ways, and this is definitely an ensemble TV show, but our two leads are spending time together. And so I enjoyed that whole discussion, the interaction between them. There is a sense of chaos and suspense,
Urgency.
urgency. Yes,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
word I
yeah.
was looking for. Toward that end, there is that sense of urgency about what's going on, what's happening, what does this mean, and the greater conspiracy.
And the timer, I think. We
Yeah,
have a timer
yeah,
on their
right.
Eros journey, right?
Yeah. And we touched on that it was a cliffhanger. I'm I I have thoughts about that, but I'll hold them for now. But yeah, I like this group together and where they're going. I'm pulling for them in a way, and I do keep bringing up this feels like the Firefly crew. And
Yeah, it really
there
does.
isn't a one-to-one, but there is that sense of we for Christmas we watched Rudolph, the original claymation, and Chris, they're just mean to Rudolph.
Mm.
Like his dad is just a bastard.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
at the end, I always knew you were a good dude. No, you weren't. But anyway, yeah. So, but
Straight bullies.
yeah,
60 sensibilities, right?
yeah.
Yep.
His mom doesn't even get a name.
Yep.
But
Welcome to womanhood. I keep
yeah,
saying that, but
yeah.
man.
But they're really the island of misfit toys.
Mm,
These
yep.
feel like a gang of misfits, the island of misfit toys
Yeah.
that have now bonded together. And whether he knows it or not, Miller he is a kindred soul to them.
Yeah. Yep.
And if they will figure it out or not, don't know. But there is that they are similar.
Yeah. They're both misfit toys,
Yes.
as you wanted to put it. That's fantastic, I
Yeah.
think. I love seeing them together. It was a tension in this season that they were both on a similar path, but they hadn't crossed them yet.
Yeah.
And so in the last episode where they finally do meet up, it feels you get a sense of relief. Finally, we're going to see them together. And now it's, what are they going to do? This tension between them is like super interesting, but it also makes me anxious to see what goes on. And I also love that Naomi says, we're better together when she is leaving, because it does show that Naomi has flipped 100%. She wasn't on board with Holden and his whole crusade. She was mad at him for being at fault for destroying the camp, even though it's not his fault, clearly. But I think that there's been a reversal of fortunes there on the Rossi, that they're all banded a bit. I don't think they're as solid as they maybe will be in the future. And I think that's the difference between them and Firefly, is that Firefly, it started with them being slightly cohesive. Not all of them were, but
And wasn't.
that's who I was thinking of,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But they were like Mal and Wash, and they were pretty much a team at that point. And then
Yeah.
they bring other people in, whereas here they're just all thrown together.
Yeah. I think, to add on to what you're saying about Naomi, I think that the biggest show was when Holden and Miller were fighting, and she said to Amos, Amos, do something. Like,
Yeah.
the shows that she cares about, or maybe she just didn't like the two fighting, but I read that she was worried that Holden was going to get beaten up.
Sure. Rightly, because I agree with you. I think Miller is much more scrappy and powerful than Holden is. Holden is probably pretty soft and thinking he is not, because he's an earther, but he was also on the cant. And I think that gives him a false sense of that he's a badass when he really isn't, because the cant was a scrappy ship. They were out there doing stuff that people on Earth didn't want to do.
Yeah. But
Okay,
they're
so
not,
go
yeah,
ahead.
they're not professional soldiers
Right,
or whatever. They're just
right.
regular people.
Not like Alex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although Alex was a pilot, he's also not one of those
Yeah.
gung-ho. I think Amos falls into that category. That category of being a badass,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to talk about, I'll talk about Dresden in a minute, but Eros, just touching on the point that they have, where they sabotaged the Tycho station. No, Tycho is Johnson's thing. The other station. They sabotaged that other station on purpose.
Who did? Sorry, you've lost.
The crew of the ship from Mao.
Oh, the Scopula
No,
or the
the Anubis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not Mao's ship. That's the unknown party's ship, right?
But
The
they
ship,
have the thing from Mao, right? On board, the prototype thing. That's who I'm talking about. The people that had the prototype on board.
the protomatter.
Yeah. That they were
That was
working.
on that was on the Anubis.
But weren't they working for Mao, transporting that?
No,
Not
they
Julie,
were.
her father.
Yeah, they were working for her father. Yeah.
No, I've forgotten what I was talking about. Okay. Oh, yeah. That they were responsible for sabotaging the other station. They were responsible for destroying the cant. So their main goal is to get this prototype to wherever Mao wants it to go, but they're also wanting to start this war between the three factions on the show. And whether that's to do this kind of distraction thing, I'm reminded, this is so dumb, but I think it was Beverly Hills Cop 2, whichever one Gilbert Gottfried was in.
That's the second one, I think.
And
Yeah,
okay,
I
yeah.
don't think he was in the
So
first one.
one of the things my husband and I do to each other is when he goes into Gilbert Gottfried's office, whoever it is, it's a policeman of some sort, and they're trying to get him on all his traffic tickets, and he's trying to bribe them, and he goes, "What can I do in this hand that would make you forget about this hand?" And he's got like a whole handful of money in one hand. Let me give you what's in this hand so you don't see what's happening over here in this hand. And I feel like that's what's going on here, that and this is just me reading into it, that they're trying to start these tensions in order to do what they need to do with the prototype. And as you said, it's like the Maltese Falcon kind of thing here, where that's the thing that they want us to concentrate on, but it's not visible to us at the moment. Is that kind of what you're saying? That we don't see what's really happening with it at the moment, but we do understand that their motivation is to cause all of this trouble. And there's
Yes.
also the stealth ships too, which we don't know
Mhm.
where that's going. So that storyline is fascinating to me because I want to see what lengths they're going to. We know that they don't care about genocide, and that's really interesting to me. What is their goal if they're okay with killing like a whole station? And now it looks like they're going to be doing the same thing with Eros. They've already got people locked away that are infected with this. And Dresden being the present day version of the Anubis. He's carrying out the wishes of Mao at that point. And also, I feel like he thinks that this prototype is like the answer to his prayers almost because he reveres it. That's the only way I can think to say it, that he thinks it's going to do something wonderful to people. But he obviously knows that it kills people. What is his thought? And that's again, it's just something I'm wondering, but the whole thing about them marauding and doing all this, what do you guys think about it? I know you know what's going to happen, Lou, but let's ask Jesse also. Where do you think this is headed?
So I'm very confused in a good way of why, once again, I'll bring up one of the tropes of Doctor Who is that a human will work with the Cybermen or the Daleks thinking that they won't bother them. It'll be fine. And
So
trick,
Dresden is immune to,
yeah, and
yeah.
that trick never works to Rocky the Squirrel. And so what is the purpose of doing this terror? And it does seem that they feel that it can also enhance you. So those think that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
You're talking
Yeah,
about Dresden more than,
yeah.
yeah.
And so I am just confused altogether of when we have that great scene where Julie's dad, yes, he's mourning, but at the same time, she's dead anyway. We might as well go with the plan, which was very cold.
Mm.
So I don't understand, and I feel a little bit better, Lou, you saying that this is the MacGuffin, the
Mm.
Maltese Fountain. This is not necessarily going to be we're fighting this zombie outbreak or this biological weapon. It is just a focus for the story. But yeah, I'm confused in a good way of what they are trying to accomplish. And is this all about gaining power? Is this gaining independence? Is this getting revenge on the way Mars and Earth has treated them basically like servants because of them resources that the asteroids have done. Love the political intrigue of this and where we're going. I don't have good answers, but I really am enjoying. This isn't a I'm angry because I don't know what's going on and I wish they'd give me more answers.
Mm.
This is and I think we talked about this last week, because this is based on a novel, a well-received novel. This feels like a real world, a fully formed world that I'm getting to know.
That's unfolding the same way it would in real life, right? That
Yes,
we're not
yes,
seeing it all at once. We're not,
right.
I like that we're not getting all the answers at once.
Yeah, I do.
Some shows give us all the answers and then we watch it unfold.
Yeah,
And this is one of those shows that brings us along for the ride, I feel.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And
Lou. Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, I
No,
was
no,
just gonna
no.
say, and one of the things I really like the fact is that Lou has done a really good job of not spoiling things, but also directing, oh yeah, this is
Watch
something
this.
you
Yeah,
probably want to, hey, I don't know if any of you guys have
right.
ever done driver's ed or
Mm.
or gone to the traffic school instead of paying for a ticket, and the guy will say, I'm not saying, but this might be important for you to pay
Mm.
attention to for the
Yeah,
test later.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to do it again. I'm going to make a point of clarification because Karen, you've been referring to this other station that got destroyed. I think you mean the Phoebe station. Uh,
Yes, thank you.
and
Yeah, Tycho's the one
something
with
happened there.
Johnson.
Yeah. Yes, Tycho's Johnson. Something happened at Phoebe, but we don't know exactly what yet. It hasn't been specifically stated what happened there. So I don't want you to run with the thought that that station was deliberately destroyed.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Because it hasn't been explicitly stated yet. All we know is something happened there and everybody's lost contact with that station.
okay.
So that's a thread that has to be picked up yet.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, did you want me to, were we talking about, what's the guy's name? Dresden yet? Or
Dresden? Yeah,
are we
yeah,
talking about that
Dresden.
now?
Yep.
Okay. So he's obviously is somebody high up because he has direct communications to Julie Mao's father, and he informs him it's a good news, bad news thing. We've recovered some proto matter, but unfortunately, it came at the cost of your daughter's life. There's that bit of information that's been relayed to us. And then he starts taking samples from Julie's body, which is really creepy. And then when you see what's in
Yep.
the vials, like her blood with the blue crystals in it. And then he says, but we can continue with phase two. And there's this a diagram behind the father that quickly, I don't know what it is. It's all formulas in that, but it's like this is stage two, where whatever stage one was, we're satisfied with that, but we need to go to the next stage to further our desires or the end result. And
Is it research, maybe?
yes, you
Okay.
could say yes, it's research. So what's the happening on Eros right now is research.
Okay.
So they're locking the station down. They've hired the security force there to string the station with all sorts of surveillance devices, which you have to ask why.
Yeah.
They've concocted a story about the lockdown. They've actually exploded a ship in one of the docking bays as a pretext for that there's radiation. So people have to be worried about that. And then they're siphoning off a certain amount of people from the station into these holding areas. And while they're doing that, they're giving them these injections. And they say it's iodine for radiation poisoning. But as we find out later on, when Holden and Miller open up one of those containers or store or waiting areas, all those people are dying or are dead. So whatever's going on now is phase two of whatever Julie Mao's father is working on. So we have to assume that the first stage was just being able to replicate or culture more of this protomatter. And now they want to use this protomatter to do something. And Dresden makes the references something wonderful will happen if you get infected. But that doesn't seem to jibe with what we saw happen to Julie. So
Nope.
No.
He knows that.
and so whatever his term wonderful is open to interpretation, and we have to assume that it's whatever the end game is with the second phase of the research. Somehow they want to be able to tailor it for specific results, and this
Yeah.
is how they're going about it. These are trial runs, I guess you could say, and they're
Okay.
using the people of Eros as the guinea pigs to do that. So if Christian was somebody that we have trouble dealing with, this is on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And how this ties in with this desire to start a war between Earth, Mars, and the Belters is still up in the air. But that's the
Right.
big question, because obviously the lady that was on the Anubis, I assume she was infected. We never saw her again. The one that made the "it's hot in here" remark.
Yeah.
She obviously had a connect. I should say obviously, but it seems that she had a connection with Julie's father as well. So
Yeah.
so that's all that stuff on the Anubis is interrelated to what's going on now on Eros. And the only reason that it is going on is unfortunately because of what happened to Julie. If that hadn't happened, that would have been the end of the proto molecule, the proto
Because
matter.
it was
So
destroyed by
right.
Holden and the Rossi, right?
Yes, because they blew up the Anubis. So yeah, there's a lot going on here again, and it's only the fact that I've seen the show that I'm picking up on this stuff this time. But
That's
so
always cool, right?
don't feel bad if you're missing out on things right now, because there is a lot of information being thrown at us each episode. So it's almost
Okay.
like they're designing the show to make you want to read the books.
Yeah. I don't think that was deliberate, but because it seems like they're really wanting to show us this world. And
Yeah, I think there's also the creative decision that we're not going to spoon feed this stuff to you. We're going to let you interpret it. People are smart. There's Yeah, we watch certain shows just to relax, and they're eye candy or blah blah blah, or they're just a comfort food kind of thing. But then sometimes you want to watch a show that challenges you, and
yep,
this is more that type of show.
yep. This is the ribs and coleslaw instead of the steak and potatoes, right? Steak and potatoes being more of a comfort food. And
Yeah.
yeah, so moving into the very end of the episode, number one, Dresden knows what happened to the Anubis, right? Not that it was blown up, but that those people all died because of the proto weapon thing.
I'm not sure if he knows what happens to them or not, because the ship was destroyed. But unless those people that were or they might have communicated with him that they were infected, but that hasn't been established at this point. So I don't know if he knows what happens to the crew of the Anubis.
Okay.
I don't even know if
Okay.
he knows that the ship got blown up, to be honest.
I'm assuming he doesn't know that it got blown up
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that was a thing.
Yeah, because
that
it
Julie
seems
set it up and
they've lost contact with it. The fact that they were monitoring for Julie is interesting as well.
yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fact that somebody is powerful enough to buy the security force for a whole space
Yeah.
station and control it is also speaks volumes as to the
Right.
power, and as Miller's pointing out, that this is high stakes, what's going on here.
Yep. Who are the backers?
Yeah.
Who's involved with it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the reason I came to the conclusion about research is that we do see those formulas behind Mao, and that's
Yep, one.
that's an indication of them trying things. That's always one of those hallmarks of that kind of storyline is, hey, let me write all this
Or
stuff
actually,
down
was
so
it
that
yeah, maybe
no,
it said phase 2 on that diagram. I can't remember now.
yeah, either way, it's just showing us they're doing stuff with this prototype. And also Dresden, go ahead.
But they're basically following the protocol for isolating a disease and
Right.
replicating it to find a cure or
And
modify it for their uses.
for whatever they want to do with it.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the things I got from this as well is that the radiation is part of phase 2, that maybe they're trying to see what radiation does to someone who has this in their body, because it's directed at those people that are infected. I'm wondering, there's definitely like a correlation between that and real life where we have done horrible things like that to people, exposed them to things that will kill them. And knowing that that's the quote unquote price that we have to pay for whatever's going on. We do that with animal research as well, not to show my bleeding heart. I don't love that. Although there's part of me that understands in order to get something that will save humans' lives, sometimes we have to test it on like simulacrums of us. That's a fine line there. I'm getting off on a tangent. But I feel like that's what they're doing with this phase is they're throwing something else at it to see if it can maybe not affect people the way it affected Julie and the crew of the Anubis. Are they trying to see, hey, is radiation going to make this turn into like super soldiers or whatever they're trying to do? How is it going to kill people, essentially? So that's what I get from that. And also that cliffhanger, man, we're dead, being the line that we get from Holden. And it shows how smart he is. What happened in his life? We know he's a reader, even though books weren't a big deal on Earth at that time. His mother instilled certain knowledge and beliefs in him. He's smart enough to know this is radiation and we're gonna die. We only have a couple hours, essentially. And conveying that to Miller, who has lived all his life on Cirrus, not knowing what radiation will do, maybe just hearing about it or seeing it happen in fiction. So the fact that we are now seeing, and they're inferring that Holden knows more than Miller. He's more street smart, where Miller, no, he's more book smart, where Miller is street smart. But that's not the main point of this. The main point is to give us that timer back. I love intrigue with a timer. I do. I hate when it ends up like the bomb being diffused at 1 second. That bugs me. But I do like a timer on intrigue where there is a sense of great urgency to find out what's going on. I'm going to go to you, Jesse, and see what you thought of that and how you feel about the cliffhanger.
So I assume that there he's mistaken about this radiation, or it is a radiation bath that, as you mentioned, only affects those people who are infected. So therefore, he thinks that this is they're on a thought they're going to die, but I don't think there's a magic a cure or a vaccine or something you take. I think he just thinks this is something that it isn't, would be my guess right now. I do think it was horrible that seeing all those people dead and it just, the whole mad chaos. And I go back to, I'm not sure what the end game of this is. I agree with you guys. It's very much, it feels like an experiment. And as you mentioned, Karen, as a society, we have done this in the past where we do this and you hope that when you do it, it's for good, but other times it wasn't at all.
As
Yeah,
examples, the Holocaust,
yeah,
Khmer Rouge, things
yeah,
like that.
yeah. And
Tuskegee experiments
yeah,
as well.
exactly. And so I think I'm and I go back to the sadness of Julie's dad. Yeah, I've lost my daughter, but I still, whatever we're trying to do. And the intriguing part, is this a weapon? Is it a super soldier serum? Or is it both? What can we do? Is the idea like in the original Watchmen, right?
Mm,
Where I'm going to kill people, but in the long run, I'm going to save the world.
right.
So yeah, this
With
is
a
some,
deadly octopus,
yeah,
as in in the
yeah,
book.
This is a very deep series, and I am a little intrigued to read the book.
Books.
Yeah, but for now, I'm just enjoying not knowing what's happening and going on the journey. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, very
Okay,
much.
okay.
I'm curious about the one shock scale for both of you. How shocked were you with when Holden said that?
Pretty shocked.
Yeah,
I didn't know what the scan was until they
Yeah.
got out, and for him to understand what it was and know that they're gonna die, I was like, okay, that's
yeah,
that's a curveball.
yeah, I was really shocked and also very scared for them with even though the guy said it's not airborne, only worry,
Sure.
I still was worried them being in that room that are they going to, this does not seem safe
Yeah,
Yeah.
to
at
put it
all.
mildly,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
seem
Yeah,
safe.
really. Yeah, so a couple of points based on what you guys said as to how Holden knew what that radiation blast was. I think just in general, people that work on spaceships and that obviously deal with radiation on a much more regular basis. They have to be trained on it, so they're pretty aware of what radiation doses are, things of that nature. So he knows pretty definitively what exactly how much radiation they took or that it was a lethal amount. So there's that. And we also know that the protomatter is drawn to energy because it went to the ship reactor, both when the Anubis crew was there and then later on when Holden and Naomi were down there and they had turned back the lights on and that and noticed that the protomatter was starting to grow again.
Yeah,
So if they gave that much of a blast of radiation to those people, one can only imagine the effect that it's going to have on the protomatter. So
sure.
it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the next episode
Yeah,
and the rest of the series. So
that's
uh,
energy turned up to 11.
yes, exactly. So yeah, I thought that was, I mean, I've watched the show, but you don't remember the specifics all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, when he said that we're dead, I'm going, ooh, okay, now I remember how that works. Okay,
Mm,
yeah. The the show generally plays it pretty fair. So when he says that they're dead, he's not fooling around.
Okay.
okay. Yeah, I said turned up to 11. What I
Mm.
should have said is critical mass because
Very good.
that
Yeah.
is almost exactly what critical mass is. It was invented as a term to explain the way fusion works and how that interacts with other things to cause a chain reaction and
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not explaining it well, but you guys know what I mean,
No,
right?
chain reaction is a good
Okay,
description.
great, great. I'd like to think I'm really smart, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm just saying stuff.
Yeah, don't feel bad.
Um,
This show makes you work.
okay, good. So critical mass, very apt for this
Hmm.
Yep.
episode. Even leading up to it, I feel like I understood the urgency behind those words. And I love the titles of Expanse episodes. I think they really do mean something, and sometimes they mean more than one thing in regards to the episode. So that's very cool. I'm gonna, are we rating these? Or was it just pluribus that we were rating?
I don't think we've done that with this show, but
Okay. Let's not rate it because a lot of these would be hard to quantify because we don't know where they fall in line here. I super enjoyed this episode. I do not talk a lot when I watch episodes because I really want to concentrate, but I found myself pausing and turning to my husband. As you guys know, I talked to my husband. This week we had gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches from a grilled cheese
Mm.
place near us. I had a BLT grilled cheese, and he had one with sausage and pickles and stuff. So we had those, and it was super messy, but we enjoyed them muchly. But anyway, I would pause and turn to him and go, "Why is she doing that? She's stealing pencils." I got caught up on a bunch of stuff and had to vent to him and take that minute to absorb and then discuss with him what was going on. But normally, I tend to shush him because he wants to do that. And I'm like, no, I'm watching something. So this was an episode where I really did want to live in the moment, discuss what happened right then, and I couldn't wait to talk to you guys about it today as well. I love talking to my husband about it, but with you guys, it's more like a roundtable kind of discussion. I love hearing the insights from you guys. Sean isn't quite as delicate as you, Lou. He doesn't give things away, but he wants to. I can see that in his eyes that he wants to tell me everything that's coming up. And I'm like, okay, I can't discuss this anymore with you because you're going to say something.
Yeah.
But I feel like the boundary there, Lou,
Yep.
and
And
know
I'm
when
and
to,
I'll try to prove it again because you said you like the episode titles. Episode 10 is called Leviathan Wakes.
yeah, I saw that.
So there you go.
Very epic. There's Leviathans in World of Warcraft. And,
So it has
you know,
special meaning for you.
yeah, but a lot of World of Warcraft is based on other media. A lot of it's based on like J.R.R. Tolkien stuff.
Most
There-
fantasy is.
Correct. And even Star Trek and things like that. And they put pop culture references in as well.
Mm.
But Leviathans are one of those, what they call like a world boss. Where it's out in the open, it's not in a dungeon, and you go and fight it, and it's really hard. Like you have to get a group of people together
Mhm.
to fight something. And so I'm not saying I have special insight into it, but based on that, I get a very close feeling as to what's going to happen because I have quote unquote experienced that in a digital way, at least. I don't know about you, Jesse, but I know you've probably read many things about it, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Lou, come on, Mr. J.R.R. Tolkien
Yep.
yourself. Yeah, I honestly cannot wait to watch the next episode. I'm not going to watch it today because we don't have the snacks yet for what I want to do this week.
Nice.
So we're probably going to watch it Wednesday, maybe. So I won't even watch it before I talk to you guys again. And man, I I love that you gave us this show to watch, Lou.
Yeah, me too.
Good.
You know, we had Jesse with Babylon 5, we had you with The Expanse, and I don't know that I'll be able to come up with something as epic as you guys. I think maybe my thing was
I
Farscape.
think I'm 2 for 2 because I'm pretty sure I recommended 12 Monkeys too, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I think you did.
100%
Yeah.
you did. And I've let us down there. I did recommend Devs, but that wasn't
Which was
nearly as
great.
epic.
It was
Yeah.
great.
Sure, but
It was
it was
real
a
good. Yep.
wah wah at the end, though.
No.
The story only had certain directions to go.
Yeah.
But the journey was really good.
Good.
Yeah, it was.
And you don't have to say that if you don't mean
No,
it,
it's
but I
true.
Of
appreciate
course,
it anyway.
I mean it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm very
cool.
glad I
But
watched it.
okay, cool.
Station
And
11 was awesome too.
Station 11, the English, they were all really great
Yeah.
things for us to
Peripheral.
watch together. Peripheral,
Yeah.
even stuff like Severance and
Yeah.
Pluribus are, I feel like we're hitting on all cylinders here, and finding a show like this again to watch is one of the great joys of my life. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it enriches me, and
Absolutely.
it also spurs me. One of my main things, and I'm doing this because it's just after the new year, is I say it every year, I want to learn something new every day. And so watching something like this sparks my imagination to go and find things and learn things. And this is something that we bring out in each other, I feel like. So these discussions make my life much better. I don't know about you guys, but they do.
Yep. No,
Yes.
absolutely. I wish, and I don't know, maybe tuning into the sci-fi TV still has them, but it's too bad we don't have the Farscape episodes
Yeah.
that we did because that was a
Yeah.
really fun ride too.
I
It
agree.
was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Good.
With that, I'm going to wrap things up. You can write us at jklmediareviews@gmail.com. I am at Aleveria, Aleverive, Aleveria.
You should kind of pick a simpler name.
No, it's my favorite.
I know.
Aleveria. Eria. Aliveria. The people in my original guild called me Ale, even though it's Aliveria. And I was like, it's Allie. Allie is my nickname, not Ale. Ale's beer.
Yeah.
So Aliveria, Aleveria. There we go. And you can find my blog at alliestuff.com. Also, if you look there, I mentioned a story earlier about the way my husband and I met, and I feel like that's an interesting post that I wrote. That's something that you might find interesting. And my journey of MS and the things that led up to that as well. Just a thought. How about you, Jesse?
So I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, Blue Sky, etc. You can hear me talking about music on Set Listing Bruce. The latest episode was our year in review. So if you have 3 hours to kill and you want to hear everything that happened in the Springsteen world, it's a fun episode to listen to. And after a break, I'll be back recording new Perfectly Good podcast episodes with John Hyatt. And one of my New Year resolution is to have you guys join us on. I'm going to send you a list of songs. You just pick one you like with the title, and I'm going to have you guys join and talk about the song on Perfectly Good Podcast. And
I'm
shortly in January, the gang will get back together and we'll be talking Game of Thrones universe. Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think, is the new series that's coming out.
Yep.
That is based in that universe, and we will be talking about that, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
And you also had several episodes over the last few weeks about the holidays and the new year and all that, and I loved it, those little
thank you so
drop-ins
much.
as well.
Appreciate it.
And the interview with your son. I
Yep.
want to keep bringing that up because it was amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, Lou, let's move on.
That was a great
you.
interview. I really enjoyed listening to that as well. Yes, you can find me obviously at this YouTube channel, JKL Media, and this is where you'll find our Pluribus and the Expanse reviews. We also got all these archived shows that we've talked about just a couple of minutes ago, so you can check those out as well. On my own personal YouTube channel, Lou's Reviews, I have my writers interview podcast as well as my Stephen King and our archived episodes of the entire Babylon 5 series and the animated movie as well. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma, Sytsma.
At least you knew how to spell that better than I spelled mine.
Yeah.
Lindsay. I can spell my last name too. It's an A, by the way, not an E. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye to you, to our listeners, and goodbye to you guys for a week.
Tuesday.
Goodbye to you guys for 2 days.
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll talk again later. Bye.
All righty. Till then, bye-bye. And scene.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.